Hey y'all, welcome back to another video. I'm here at the farm that I used to manage before starting Wild East down in Brevard, and wanted to walk you through here a little bit, show you some clips from our farm from the week, and talk about the transition from working on a farm to starting your own. Pruning back the willow hedge pretty aggressively. It's getting to the time of year where we want more sunlight assurance in the gardens, and gonna make good tree hay. Started making our own compost for the first time this year. It's not a tremendous volume, but makes very good use of the brooder shavings after we clean them out twice annually. You can see the little pine flakes, tons of poultry manure in here, veg scraps, kitchen scraps, and gonna keep adding to it. We're turning regularly right now with the stage that it's at, and won't be enough to fully use or be adequate for the whole market gardens for this fall or next year, but excellent supplemental compost and potentially really good on the tree crops. The stage is set and the brooder is ready for first fall chickens. Going to pick them up now. Chicks are in from the post and they seem lively. Get them into the brooder now. Just opening up the box, and you can see happy chicks going in to join the rest. Chickens are in the brooder. It's August 27th, so we skipped a batch of what we normally do this time of year. Normally we'd have a batch that just went out on pasture that gets processed end of September, but we looked at our calendar, we looked at the numbers across the farm, and prioritized a bit more ease this time of year, and more ease for the chickens, because these guys will be going out mid-September when the conditions are perfect. We're just doing 2 batches of chickens this fall and a smaller batch to end the year, so that we can wrap up the whole processing rhythm with just 300 birds, which takes a day to, or I should say half a day to eviscerate and half a day to butcher and package. But they're settling in, figuring out their water system, and seem quite content. So they've got quite the operation here. 4 caterpillar tunnels and 3 very large greenhouse structures in addition to their fields. And Clem and the team here grow really phenomenal produce all year round to different markets than a lot of farms operating at this scale in this region sell to. So they started the farm with the intent of being primarily wholesale, I should say exclusively, to several big vendors and then a sprinkle of smaller vendors. And that was the goal from the get-go. So that has a ripple effect of how the farm ends up looking. So they don't have to grow quite the variety of crops that a CSA farm or a market farm is typically expected to. In my time here, we focused primarily on storage root crops and leafy greens, and in my last year transitioned to tomatoes, cucumbers, and those things, all the wholesale markets, and growing enough to still turn a good healthy revenue at lower wholesale prices, but being able to move a lot of food and grow in an organic tractor-based system that produces a tremendous amount of product but doesn't require the same amount of workload on the sales end. So when I came here in 2020, my role, as all-encompassing as it was very heavy on farm production and not having so much to spend time in the other elements of farming early on as I was learning. Now, I came here with very limited experience and none commercially in terms of running a farm business, but I was trusted in the role to take on quite a bit of responsibility very quickly and oversee crew operations, fulfill the production plan that Clem and I would put together, and interface with customers, doing a lot of the back end work and working under the mentorship of the farm owner, learning along the way. I like to put it as being almost like a dry run or a soft launch into what it takes to run your own farm business. And I would say that even though the production style and the type of farm here that I was managing is very different from Wild East, that experience of running a farm, not just being a crew member, but understanding what it takes in terms of workload, effort, attention to detail as the manager, really flattened out my learning curve once we started Wild East. The tunnels here are heated using these wood pellet furnaces that, I don't know all the details, but locally there was a surplus of these and they were being essentially given out for free to whoever wanted or needed them. And so these don't rely on propane. The pellets are loaded into these hoppers with just a simple silo, and then that runs the furnace, and they're able to keep the tunnels above freezing all winter. So just at visual glance so far, you can see the veggie operation is quite a bit larger than what we run at Wild East, and it's all tractor based. Growing a variety of crops. Potatoes are a big one here. Clem is famous for his carrots. Tomatoes, cucumbers, parsnips, radish, winter squash, beets. They've got a really nice, lean, dialed-in operation here, and I'm proud to have been a part of it for the years that I was. I'm a proponent of no-till, but I didn't start the gardens at Wild East as a no-till setup for any strict ideological reasons. It had a lot to do with how I wanted to spend my days, and that differs from person to person. If you like working on tractors and the hum of the engine and kind of the scale that tractors unlock for a small farm, then doing an operation like this may be for you. But I always found my greatest points of joy were the quiet, being able to listen to bird song throughout the work days, not being bogged down by machines not working, which they tend to have issues being consistent in a farm context. And yeah, less so about tillage bad, no-till good, because I think on an industrial scale, that's where the conversation becomes actually interesting. Broad scale, massive tillage of millions of acres for annual grain production has its major drawbacks, as we're seeing historically and till today in the United States and globally. But a small scale, diversified, organic vegetable farm situated in a place with soils that aren't erosion prone, bringing loads of food into the regional community and incorporating cover crops and compost and building soil in a way that can be measured despite using tillage is, I think it has its place, right? Especially at this time in the food system where we can't expect every single person to have a micro no-till farm. You know, this 8 acres of vegetable production is successfully managed with 9 people full-time, and I think that that's a pretty, they're producing an impressive amount of food for how many people there are. I think that these systems certainly have their place in the local and small food scene, even though it's not what I chose to do to start the farm at Wild East. And although in general Clem's farm is quite a bit different from ours, I gleaned a lot, and learning in this context helped me view the possibilities of our vegetable operation in a lens that isn't really talked about quite as often in the small farming market garden community. Obviously, we're growing at a much smaller scale, but we started Wild East with the idea that we could find a bridge between the very small scale market garden and the wholesale business model, and it's been successful. We've found and built relationships with customers that are extremely consistent. We're able to move really good quantities of produce every week into the local community, and while it is a lower price than what we can get at farmers market or CSA, for example, it's really a foundation and backbone of the farm, and especially the vegetable production at Wild East. It's, you know, this trade-off where we're able to grow fewer varieties because we don't have the same pressure as only producing for market and needing to stand out in that way. And it simplifies our operations, where the crops that we know our wholesale customers want and that are good for us to grow, we can focus on those and then do dabbles of specialty crops for fun and for our farmers market booth. But it's tremendously brought down the workload on the sales side, even at our scale in a half-acre no-till market garden. And I don't know if I would have seen it that way without my experience here. It's all too common that folks start a farm of their own with no experience at all, and it can be really challenging to learn all of those things at once when you have the financial buy-in and the emotional buy-in that is required to do so. I feel like part of our success starting Wild East quickly and doing well so early on is that our incubation period was long, where we were gaining skills, building relationships, and crafting a very coherent vision for many years before we even knew where the farm was going to be exactly. Once we were able to find access to the land, everything that we had been building fell into place. And despite being quite young starting this farm business, our experience at, my experience at Clem's and Lyric's experience building and crafting relationships in the small farm local food community all came together. And I look back in reflection and I'm grateful that we didn't rush into it. I'm grateful that in some ways we were forced to take the time that we did, because if the opportunity had presented itself earlier on, we probably would have taken it and not been prepared and struggled a bit more. So I think it's okay for anyone aspiring to farm to enjoy those years of incubation, as I like to put it, where maybe you're not living in the farm dream every day that you have and that you're building towards, but still seeing the process as not only fruitful, but necessary and inherently important to the longer term vision. That's been my experience, and just wanted to share a little bit about that with you. Thanks for watching another video. Please make sure to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time.